Hello, everyone. Oh, hi. Thank you for being here. And it's really my honor to read with Valerie and Bettina and Zadi. And thank you, Jericho, for creating a space that can hold us. So typically when I come to Decatur, it's to visit the VA hospital, which is where I get my healthcare. And so I thought I would start with a poem about VA hospitals. This one I wrote when I was visiting the VA hospital in Phoenix, Arizona frequently, which sits on what was formerly the Phoenix Indian Boarding School. The Zen garden is nice on the weekends, but the door will lock behind you. Here we are, all thinking and not thinking about being dead. We fight the dogs from our shoelaces and from each other by holding their well-decorated vests. This place is full of bitches, though you can't say that, though you're a person rightfully pissed off. We don't all want to be heroes. We don't all want to not die. Except for this country, we don't want to die for that. Leaving curved impressions, germinal, with no expectation in return. Leaving room to acknowledge capitalist patriarchy's broad and coercive applications. However meager or capacious the desire, our statistics are inevitably abused. Asked again whether I've considered hurting myself or others ever or in the past 2 weeks, I make a joke about the future, whose companion story dreams itself into the obstacles butting across every new path to love. It's that no path to forgiveness would look like this. I say, I'm sorry, yes, I know. This isn't funny. But it's also a testimony to the enormous thing we do to the extent we are able. Forgiveness from who? Came a voice from across the room. How long does it take if nothing was cut or crushed, but the day hangs from jangling hooks above your sorry, yellowing head? 3 weeks into the prescription, I woke thinking, this is what it feels like to be white. No one disagreed. It didn't make any sense. Anyway, it didn't last. The official formulas for suffering are mostly subjective. I've accepted that I am one who will never suffer enough, a position both intentionally obscuring and clear. A quote from Ruth Wilson Gilmore. The United States was conceived in slavery and christened by genocide. These early practices established high expectations of state aggression against enemies of the national purpose, such as revolutionary slaves and indigenous peoples, and served as a crucible for development of a military culture that valorized armed men in uniform as the nation's true sacrificial subjects. End quote. None of the signs say thank you for your left arm, or hearing, or lymphatic health, or land. I want to say thank you for being alive. And thank you, unfortunately, when it isn't what you want to be. Thanks down to the lines creasing your deeply infatuated head. I wanted to volunteer for the Vets Against War Crisis Hotline. Then I didn't write back or attend any medical appointments that year. I'm disappointed by the cadence of paltry confessions I make in order to keep living. Later, in the rooms where we can speak, we want to know why do we feel so emotional. I'm going to read a poem about the desert, specifically the Sonoran and Mojave deserts. So I wrote this book, Alt Nature, while I was living between the Mojave and Sonoran deserts full time, and was doing humanitarian aid work there in the borderlands, and also beginning to process my own kind of personal and familial histories with the carceral system and with the military-industrial complex. Dominant orientation lights a corridor wide as Mexico's northern border. Upon return, everything left was unopened, consumed by humans, destroyed by humans, or animalized. One hopes the bees, hiving, dying in foul-smelling clumps, are not Africanized. The increasing aftermath of invasion, the wounds, amber overtaken, near lovely in the morning. The first recorded dead remained unidentifiable to the officers, lost to exposure. What to do with a Negro in the desert, or all of them after, in dry orchards out of season, among cotton, saguaro picked by wrens. Exposure precedes the realization of an identity or fact, state of being exposed to contact with something else, even when making very little noise. The soldiers, pissing behind creosote or elegant on their horses lined to enter the corral, entering every morning before the mountain silhouettes, a cold hand to unlace the erroneous and unfortunately pussing stitch. The hand incorporated along emotional fields of decay. The chain choya fruit then fall. Soil in Sonora softens according to the rain, offering every explanation in full, without saying shit, without gentleness or stepping back from the officer's science, or from how white supremacist they really are. At the center of the explanation sits a small box, and to this box the beetle larvae arrive to feed. Among legal understandings of natural life in the United States is the sentence, as in, for the length of one's natural life. There, standing, the distance of their body to a door cracked alone in the desert, irrefutable music. The sentence of natural life, unlike the sentence of life, doesn't allow for the possibility of parole, which was anyway discontinued in Arizona in 1993, when the possibility of parole was replaced with that of release, a process that remains judicially vague. Among peoples in the United States, indigenous peoples are incarcerated at the highest rates per capita. Among Blacks, the carceral industry, regardless the branching of orchards and centuries of trees, finds its critical mass. Every sentence harbors a unique end. That is its gift. Night opens a jagged scar. Soft purple signals the end of night in southern Arizona. Tree frogs retreat in the depths of winter. Their bodies appear lifeless, as do certain moths that avoid internal freezing by purging their guts. After the last music, a man, then unidentified, found fully flushed condition code 1, from which water flows north. Probable electrocution located in a database of migrant deaths. His coordinates crossed by desert jaguars reliant on streams. His coordinates are passed through the beetle's gentle bowels, and those of the Belzvareo, identified by a two-part structure, his definitive response and water down his slender grayed breast. Beneath the cottonwood's gold-filtered crown, where the lowland leopard frog remains moist, the large cat's paw print remains fresh in the soil. After the last music, Tubman and Whitney hike Brown Canyon. They spot a rare beardless tyrannulet. Did she appear from nowhere, hugging parched northern boundaries of her species range? A Mexican jaguar treads backward to observe her melancholic refrain. It's without their interest that the Department of Interior studies effects of stress and fire on vegetation via high-rise, high-res satellite phenomics. No two droughts are alike. The earliest Negro recorded dead in Arizona was unidentified, having not survived probable hypothermia, exposure, blunt force. Force accumulates behind the skull to bear centuries of pulp and afterlife. The afterlife of being chatteled, of being made a glorified mercenary or buffoon, hanging naked in the moon's light, where there is no substitute for the adjunct feeling, coerced into foul-smelling clumps, Let's say the force requires a hand or an industry, at whatever temperature, more land. Let's say some records are not good, or the pulp is blooming, and the hands they return not destroyed exactly, but smelling lonely and of death. I was going to end on a love poem, but I'm going to end on the happy poem in the book. I'm going to find it. All right. So I'm going to read one more, and this one's short. The revolution will not be televised, yet she turns from the horizon and is waving hello. What rises first in the wilderness internal to love? Coming upon a cop vehicle on fire, the question is where to linger, when to return my eyes. In light of the most beautiful horizon, sleeping with heat by your side, position everything always the same way. The Glock, the cock, the pillow spray in well-spaced formation, always the same order. The key is to continue with clarity. I stay ready, so I don't never got to get ready, an old friend would say. But he was talking about film, visual aesthetics. Here, the bewildered underlying. Every light on, but all the rooms. I don't never keep. I don't never quickly. I say, what is it that arrives in you? Progressive muscle relaxation, then I just. Another worn penny for the sex that doesn't come. Another mountainside of desert poppies. Scorched slope of the future that won't return and is indiscernible from the center of my hand. When I get out of bed, the air conditioner still isn't working. And Mingus on vinyl and I demonstrating how to best scramble soft eggs. Thank you.